Every day goes by so fast.
Hey everyone, I'm David Bombal, and I've got a really exciting guest on the call today. I'm coming to you from Oxford in the United Kingdom, and I've got Michael Hilton on the call. And I must tell you this, Michael is 14 years old and he's just passed his Ccna. And when I saw him tweet about it, I told my wife, look, this guy's 14 and he passed his Ccna. It's amazing. And then I told my daughter, who's 12 years old, you can do anything because this chap's passed his Ccna at 14 years old. So, Michael, I want to welcome you to the call, and I want to say you're a real inspiration to my family, and I'm sure to many others around the world with what you've done.
Hi, thanks, David. It's a pleasure talking with you. Yeah, really, thank you for bringing me on to your show and wanting to find out more about how my journey's gone throughout the CCNA and how long I've studied and everything. So really, it's been a lot of work to get the CCNA done, but I got it done. It was a year of hard work, 9 months for the CCENT and 3 months for the ICND2 part of the exam.
How old are you?
14.
Wow, that's really impressive. So at 14 years old, you've passed your CCNA. And how long ago did you say you passed your CCENT?
About 3 months ago, so it took me about 9 months to study for it.
So it was, just so that I get it right, so it took you about 9 months to pass your CCENT and then about 3 months to pass your ICND2, is that right?
Correct.
So about a year of work. That's really impressive. Michael, you decided on doing ICND1 and then ICND2 instead of the single CCNA exam. Was there any reason why you decided to do it that way?
So the main reason was I wanted, in a way, to just get a certification in the beginning and in a way push me to work harder for the ICND2. But along towards the end of my ICND1 journey, I was in a way contemplating whether I should have or I should just go continue. And I thought at the time that I couldn't have passed the composite exam. But now, as I look at it, I mean, there's only a few things from the CCENT that I've forgotten. So really, if I were to do it all over again, I probably could have done the composite exam first time.
So in your case, you could have perhaps done that. Would you recommend that for other people, or would you still recommend, if they're not sure, to do ICND1 first and then go for ICND2?
I would still just recommend do the CCENT first, of course, because price, and also just maybe you figure out that maybe networking's not much your thing. Maybe it's more of servers or programming. So it'll still give you a lot more time to just finish up what you're doing currently and maybe look at some other places. But for me, really, networking did stick with me, so I did decide to continue it with my ICND2.
Yeah, that's really good advice. So, I mean, another thing I didn't think about, but it's a good point, is that perhaps you don't like networking. So at least once you've done your CCNT exam, you've kind of like realized this is not for me, rather than spending all that time trying to get your CCNA. So that's a great point. It's really amazing. And I mean, I tip my hat to your father and your family, for supporting you in this and helping you in this journey, because this is a real good kick start in your life, I think. A lot of us who are older wish we were in your shoes, at your age, having accomplished such a big goal. So yeah, all the credit to you and your family. I mean, this is a fantastic achievement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even I sometimes wish I just started a bit earlier, but
oh, that's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, now that I think about it, probably back then I probably wouldn't have had as much maturity or interest in pursuing what I'm doing now. So I mean, I guess it just happens all for a reason. So
here's a question for you: what do your classmates say? Do they even know what Cisco is?
All right, so really, the only thing that they, because they really, in a way, don't really understand, a lot of them. There are some that do kind of get a general idea of what I do.
Yeah.
A lot of them just think it's mainly a waste of time. And I mean, I just find it fun. I mean, for me, I personally don't have that much of an interest in video games.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's fine for me. And I remember one time I opened the official cert guide, and around my school area they have they have Cisco access points. So he's all like, is that like the Wi-Fi company or something? So
It's funny when people ask me what I do, and then I mention the first question I ask is, "Have you heard of Cisco?" And if they don't know, then it's like the conversation ends very quickly. And typically they think Cisco's like telephones is the other one I get. So that's funny. So they thought Cisco's like a AP wireless company, yeah, because of the Cisco access points. Yeah. So what are they more interested in, say, games and just having a party, and they don't understand that you're actually building a solid foundation for the future. Is that so? I think that's a real truth. I mean, ignore them and keep carrying on is what I say, because I mean you're giving yourself a massive head start by what you're doing.
Yeah, what you said is also great advice. Yeah, some of my friends want to get more into programming, and in a way they're also like me when I started my CCNT. I mean, they also kind of don't know where they want to start.
Yeah.
And that's also me right now for programming. I mean, I want to get more into Python. And yeah, there's just some that even they don't know what they want to become. They're just kind of looking at everything, but they don't have a strong foundation on if they want to become a doctor, lawyer, or some job in information technology or programmer.
So you've got to tell me what got you interested in, studying for a CCNA at such a young age.
Well, really, it's been just I've just had a passion for technology, really all the time I've been here on Earth. Really, in the beginning, I was kind of in a way studying also a few years ago back to become maybe a doctor, but I
Wow.
just really found out that technology more suited me. I really just loved messing around with technology, getting it to work different ways than it was intended, and just finding out new things and new stuff to mess around with.
So you haven't just been playing with Cisco, basically. You've been doing other things. I think I read somewhere or heard somewhere that you've done some VMware and some other things as well, Ubuntu or something. Is that right?
Correct. Way before, well, not really way before, but just a few years before, I really did get more into specifically uh, information technology infrastructure. I was mainly on my laptop just messing around with VirtualBox and VMware, installing different Linux distros, see how they would run, and really just messing around and trying to learn new things while I'm at it.
So when did your parents give you your first computer? So sort of when was your introduction to technology, and when did the love sort of grow?
Well, really, the main introduction happened. It's kind of a strange story. I mean,
Yeah.
I started with I was probably around 5 or maybe 4.5, where I saw my parents. They took something on the screen that had pictures on their old computer, and I just found it amazing how you could transfer all the pictures that or whatever you had on your screen and print it out on a piece of paper and
Wow.
look almost exactly the same. Really, the first time I really did get more into computing was probably a few years after when my my uncle and also other family members got me into computers. Mainly when my uncle gave me a MacBook 2006, probably when I was around 8,
Wow.
7 or 8. So yeah, he really wanted to get me into coding and just messing around with Apple, and I found it cool. I mean, now I'm more of a Windows Linux guy, but
But that's
and
amazing. Sorry, go on.
no, that was fine.
I was going to say that's amazing. So you've worked on Mac OS, you've worked on Linux, and you've worked on Windows. That's really impressive.
hmm
And what do you use as your main computer? Is it Windows? Is it Ubuntu? Or what is your sort of main computer?
Well, really, I have two. I have my laptop, which I'm using to record on. I have Windows 7 on it. It's a bit of an older HP EliteBook, and
Yeah.
also have my more workstation type desktop in my room where I just mess around, and it also has Windows 10 or Windows. I'm also planning to switch my laptop to Linux. I want to learn more Linux functions.
Yeah.
learn networking with Linux, possibly Python near time. So
I was going to ask you. I mean, so you're more at the moment. Are you more interested in like infrastructure, Cisco, networking? You're not really into programming yet, is that right?
correct. I do really hope to get more into Python and also JavaScript and learning more network automation and programming languages to help me aid uh, myself in the changing world of information technology.
Yeah, that reminds me. After this call, I'll send you a link so you can get access to my free, or you can get free access to my Python course if you want that.
Thanks.
That'll give you sort of an introduction to how to program networks using Python.
Thank you.
You decided, or have you decided, to pursue a full-time career in networking? And I sort of saw something on Twitter. You said that you want to work at Cisco one day. Is that sort of your dream?
That really is how I'm going at the moment. I would love to be more of a consulting network design architect and help build networks for Cisco in different areas of the world. I would love to work in data centers and large internet service providers.
So anyone at Cisco, did you hear what Michael said? Please, if you have an option for Michael to get involved and get a future job at Cisco, please reach out to Michael. His Twitter handle is voice over IP guy. So please send him a message. Help Michael reach his goal of working at Cisco. You're based in, is it Texas? Is that where you're based at the moment?
Correct.
But you like the idea of traveling the world, perhaps seeing different parts of the world and working on networks all over. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Correct.
great. So when did you decide to seriously concentrate on Cisco? I mean, you're 14, you've passed your CCNA now. Sort of, when did the shift go from now I want to do Cisco, and why did you decide on Cisco?
Well, really, it all happened. I mean, I'm thankful for my family, my mom, my dad, my grandparents, everyone. But really, it happened when, in the area where I'm at, there was this nonprofit that at the time they got a grant for doing a CompTIA boot camp.
Okay.
And my dad knew the person who was in charge of it, and he asked him and the person in charge if I could get in, but he declined because the people that were giving out the grant said that I had to be 21 or older to participate in the boot camp.
Wow.
So really, my dad and also other family members recommended me to try out Cisco certification. So I mean, I just looked it up and just found it cool. I mean, how networks work, how a packet flows, firewalls, unified communications, wireless, all that stuff really did just interest me. It just happened, I guess, really by accident.
That's really cool. So, well, it's cool and it's not cool. So the first thing that's not cool is they said you were too young to attend the CompTIA classes. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry, go on.
Oh, I was about to say, yeah, but starting next week, I should be. They also have different people who are in charge of the what do you call it, the boot camp.
Yeah.
But the testing proctor that I go to in the local area, he's in charge of that now, the boot camps. And he saw what I did with the CCENT, and he wants to get me to audit the boot camp. So I'll be hopefully earning some CompTIA certifications in a few months. So.
Yes, I think that's a really great lesson. So the lesson is, if one door gets blocked, don't let that stop you. Try something else. And then what's kind of happened is it's like this has turned into something better now. So not only, you're not just attending to get a certification, but you're actually actively involved and contributing as well.
Correct.
That's really cool. So what about mentors? Because I think mentors are often really important. It sounds like your parents and your dad, and I think you mentioned somewhere your uncle had a big influence on kind of guiding you towards Cisco and a career in networking. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. So again, like I said, I'm very thankful of my family, everyone, but also I have through when I posted my exam no, not exam receipt, but what do you call it?
Yeah,
The
you like
exam.
your pass paper thing, yeah?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I posted that, there was this guy from VMware that said he wanted to help mentor me, and his name
Brilliant.
is Dale McKay. And yeah, he's a really great mentor to work with. And he in the beginning told me that he wanted me to do the ICND 2 and 3 months. And after I did see that I did my CCENT in 9 months, I was kind of thinking, I might not be able to do it in 3 months, but
Yeah.
here I am now that he really did help me and push me to get the CCNA in 3 months, the ICND 2 part. So I would really like to thank him also.
That's brilliant. So did he kind of like push you to set a date to do your exam, or did he just let you decide when to do it?
He kind of did, in a way, I was kind of maybe planning for about 3 4 months, a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, he also kind of did push me to study, and it really did help me uh, get to my goal, and also helped him with his mentoring program.
I mean, that's fantastic. So you did an ICND 2 in 3 months.
Hmm.
You didn't do that full time. You're doing this part time. Is that right?
Correct. So right now I'm not in school for summer, but yeah, every time I would get an opportunity to study in school, I would pull out my book. Anyone that knew me in school would know that I would carry very thick 1.5 inch to 2 inch books, and I would start reading them, taking notes. But yeah,
So you were studying when you had breaks at school, and then after class or at home in the evenings, you were doing your studying as well. Is that right?
hmm I would also make sure take breaks and also hang out with friends every so often. So
That's really cool. So, Michael, that brings me to another thing. Your Twitter handle is voiceover IP guy. So, when I saw that,
mhm,
I'm assuming you have a love for Cisco collaboration or some kind of voiceover IP technologies. Is that right?
mhm. I really, in general, have a broad love for everything that encompasses networking,
Yeah.
but that's definitely something I do want to get into a lot more collaboration. Just because I find it cool how you have all these technologies that used to not be able to operate over the internet,
Yeah.
and now they're able to operate in tandem with computers and different devices now.
Have you got Cisco IP phones or anything like that at home that you're messing around with?
No, the only I guess you could say Cisco devices I have are just the devices in my home lab that I mess around with. They're routers and switches. So
So, if anyone wants to help Michael with Cisco collaboration, please, again, reach out to him on VoiceOver IP Guy on Twitter. Let's help Michael, reach his dream to get more involved with Cisco collaboration. And Network Chuck, I'm talking to you specifically. Come and help this guy. So, Michael, that brings me to another question. How did you do labs? Did you use just physical equipment, or did you use something else for your labs?
so for the equipment related functions itself, I did use Packet Tracer, and at the time when I was beginning to study for my CCENT, that's all I really did. Now later on, I did get some family members to, especially my uncle that worked in information technology, to get me some old Cisco routers and a switch, and
Yeah.
I just kept on adding to that. And I did end up also using GNS3 during the last few weeks of my ICND2 studies, once I figured out how to get that up and running.
Yeah, GNS3 is amazing, but it's quite difficult to get started if you're
Mhm.
new to it. So, what equipment do you have at home? Can you share, like, what kind of routers and switches do you have?
hmm So right now I have a 2821 router, I have a 3640 router, a 3725, a 1720 router, and I have three 3560Gs, two of which support PoE.
So, how was your experience going from, say, packet tracer to physical equipment to GNS3? What would you recommend other people use? If firstly, if they have no money, and secondly, if they've got if families can sponsor them or they've got a bit of money, what would you recommend based on your experience?
I would recommend, if possible, go for a home lab, But
Yeah.
really, for the ICND1 and ICND2, packet tracer and GNS3 could be fine. I wish standard GNS3 could support better switching functionality. But really, you could do the ICN the full CCNA with packet tracer, although there are some small verification commands that aren't included. But I
Yeah.
mean, you could still do it. I mean, it's all about just understanding the concept of it, how everything works.
So did you spend a lot of time doing theory, or did you spend a lot of time doing labs for the exam?
Mostly I did theory, but I also made sure to, of course, lab every day as much as I could, and implement what I learned, took theory and implemented it in my labs.
So you've mentioned a keyword there. So explain what that keyword is, because it doesn't mean just lab every day. What is that? It's a movement, isn't it?
hmm So it's basically taking everything you've learned and all the examples, if maybe you're reading a book or watching a video, and just getting repetition going. And you can look it up, and it's a lot of scientists have proven how repetition really uh, connects everything better in your mind. So
Yeah.
really getting everything going and working.
So do you want to give a shout out to the gentleman who started lab every day? Tell us a bit about him and how you involved.
All right. So the other day, I did a interview with Duan Lightfoot, and yeah, I enjoyed the interview he did with me also. I really like his upbeat mood and really
Yeah.
inspiring ways and stories of how he got into IT and what's he doing and how he helps other people out in their journeys.
And so did you contribute to that group as well, on the Slack channel and stuff like that?
hmm I try to help where I could apply my knowledge as much as possible, and also people have any answer or any questions for me, such as like what studying materials that I use, or maybe if they have a problem on packet tracer or something, I'll try and see if I can help them out.
So let's talk about that. What study materials did you use? Like what books? We've spoken briefly about equipment that you've used, but kind of give us, what did you use? What was helpful? What was more helpful, perhaps? If someone's starting this journey, especially someone in school, what? Just give us your sort of strategy, your tips and tricks with materials. The time that you spend, things like that.
All right. So in the beginning, I did use the official cert guide, but I found it to be more of I could read something else that would explain it better, and then use the official cert guide to more deeply broaden and I guess even more focus more of the theory and configuration. So that's in the beginning. That's probably what took most time about my CCent,
Yeah,
was really just finding out what materials fit me.
yeah,
And with that, I discovered Todd Lamley's book,
yeah. Very
and
good.
that really helped me uh, with networking, just because the way he really explains everything in a very conversational tone.
Yeah.
But also, of course, the official cert guide by Wendell Oldham is also really good to just reinforce what you've learned and uh, really just broaden everything. So I also did use some video courses. So I used Chris Bryant's mainly throughout my whole journey. Todd Lamley also had a series that did really go well with his book on
Yeah.
IT Pro TV and also on his website. And I did use some CBT and INE, but mainly for review. I didn't use those as my main resources. And I also used two labbing resources. So I've used 101 Labs for the CCNA and also your Ultimate Packet Tracer Labs.
Great. So you use quite a range of material then.
hmm Really, what I would recommend that you could do it is get the Todd Lamley book and the official cert guide. Find a good video course, and also use your Ultimate Packet Tracer Labs, and also if you wanted to, the 101 Labs for the CCNA.
That's right. So, well, I'm glad my course helped you. Um, so, just if anyone's interested, I have a course on Udemy that's basically packet tracer labs, just lab after lab after lab after lab, to verify knowledge.
So also keep in mind that time management's really important. So scheduling how much you study and what time you studied, so your body basically gets more of an idea of when you're going to study. So you'll probably have more energy during that day. And also, really, something that does help prevent, in a way, procrastination is maybe start with the timer on your phone or anything, or any device in general that has a timer, and just turn off everything, or all your, what do you call it?
Notifications and things.
Yeah, the distractions. There we go.
Yeah, it's
Turn off
distractions. Yeah.
turn off all your distractions for 5 minutes, and you'll realize it's not bad. And then you just constantly continue until you get to 25 minutes. And usually 25 minutes is how much I do. Then I take a small break, 5 7 minutes, kind of take your mind off what you're studying and doing, and then just go back another 25 minutes and just basically do that. And that also helps prevent, in a way, mental fatigue.
Yeah.
Then if you just went straight through for an hour and a half studying, you would just get really tired mentally. And so it's good to also take breaks, and also being outside and spending time with friends and family also helps a lot. And also prioritizing things. So I can tell you, as a student, I always put school first, and once I finish typically my homework and everything school related, I would study. So also prioritize what's important to you, and that will really help you get more insight on achieving your goals.
So, Michael, that brings me to another thing. How much time were you dedicating, sort of roughly, every day? So you said you had to go to school during the day, you had to do, say, homework, other stuff after school. How much time did you have left to study?
So really, I would study anywhere on average from 1.5 to 3 hours, mostly every day. Mainly, I would go for 2 to 3 hours, and that's really on average how much I would study. And I would also make sure to leave time for other things that were also important to me. But really, just anywhere from 1.5 to 3 hours. Typically more on weekends or days when I didn't have school or anything that would get me tired when I get home.
And so on weekends, were you able to spend more time studying then?
Typically, I would study more on weekends. Some weekends I just kind of relax from everything, and then some weekends I would just go forth and just study a bit more than 3 hours.
That's really impressive. So you were studying, say, 3 hours a day for 9 months, and you got your Ccna. But one of the struggles in the beginning was to find the right material. But once you got into the flow, it went quicker. And then it was 3 months to get your ICMD2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that gives a good idea. So 3 months at 3 hours, perhaps more on the weekends, and you were able to get through all that material.
Well, really, for the Ccna, in the beginning, it was kind of just me really just trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
So really, in the beginning, I was maybe doing like 30 minutes a day, but it's just because I wasn't like learning as great as I wanted to, and I would just get distracted a lot. So it's really just takes time to get learn how you study and go forth with that.
So I mean, that coming back to distractions, how did you stop distractions in your life? Did you close the door? Did you turn your phone off? How did you stop getting interrupted? Because I mean, in today's world, I'm assuming your friends and other people would like send you messages and stuff like that, and it would be distracting.
Mm-hmm. So really, sometimes, yeah, you turn off your phone or put it on silent and do that stuff. And sometimes you just have to realize your priorities and just brute force it.
Yeah.
Just ignore everything else. Sometimes I would study around the kitchen area. So I would sometimes leave my phone in my desk in my room. So
that's good. That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, I think I find that what I do personally is I do something similar. I get rid of the phone. I put it on airplane mode, or just turn it off, because otherwise you get nothing done because of all the distractions. So that's really good that you've learned that already. Get rid of the distractions in your life. And I think what you did, you set yourself a goal. Like with your mentor, you decided together, like, try and do it in 3 months. So you had this like sort of thing that you had to accomplish. Did you actually book the exam in advance so that you were kind of forced to study in time, or how did you do that?
Well, so I thought really once I would finish learning routing protocols, and it was about the second month, and around that time I just decided, well, I don't have I've got the most of what's left isn't really huge topics on the exam, and they weren't extremely hard to learn in about that time. So around second, a little bit more of the second month, I just planned it and took it and passed it on the 30th of June.
That's very cool. Which was the hardest section, sort of in CC? Let's start with CCEN. What was the hardest section for you? What was the most difficult section, and then what was the same in ICND2?
So really the hardest part for the CCENT, and I guess it really does hit everyone, is just learning subnetting. So
Yeah.
it took me over a month to learn it, but I just kept hitting the book, and I eventually just learned it, and it just gives you a feeling of accomplishment once you
Definitely.
worked so hard and you learned it after a month. And really for the ICND2, it was a little bit more of a spanning tree and getting all the, because there's when you first start spanning tree, there's just so much terminology thrown at you, so
Yeah.
it gets a bit overwhelming. And also quality of service was a bit overwhelming, just because all the terminology gets thrown at you and you have to understand how everything fits together in the puzzle.
So if you were starting again, let's say you were starting your journey tomorrow again, like a lot of other people would, what advice would you give them for tackling IP subnetting? Have you got any tips or tricks or advice to make that section less intimidating for people?
Really, it's just one of the things that also did make the subnetting, the time that it took me to learn subnetting extend so far, was mainly the fact that I just kept going to different resources, and really I would say just focus on one. So maybe if you're learning it the way Todd Lamney has it, more of numbers and block sizes and less of the, in a way at the time, overwhelming binary.
Yeah.
Learn that and just keep sticking to it until you finally get it. Or maybe if you're learning it how a lot of people teach it, specifically more with binary, just learn that way. So just really just stick to one way of learning it, and you'll eventually get it done.
I think that's really good advice. I've seen that with a lot of people. They jump from resource to resource, and then they just get totally confused because everyone has a different way of doing it. And that kind of was your experience as well, is that right? You got a bit confused, but then once you stuck with one way of doing it, then the breakthrough came. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you have any other industry certifications, or is the Ccna your first industry certification?
So really, those are my first certifications that I've gotten. I would also like to say that, some people recommend the A plus or Network Plus before, but really it's just all about understanding the big picture. You don't have to get any other certification. And with me, I have no industry experience. So, I mean, it really just proves that if you understand everything and you're able to explain it in a very fluent manner, you could get it done without really any experience or any prior certification.
That's a very good point. So, I mean, you actually doing it the other way around now, aren't you? Because you're going to do your are you going to do your A plus Network Plus in the future now as part of this boot camp? Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. So basically, your advice is you can do CCNA without CompTIA certifications, and you would just recommend someone jump straight into doing Cisco if that's of interest to them. And I mean, you mentioned about industry experience. So I think one of the things that you did, which was really cool, is that you got some equipment and you kind of did it yourself. So you built a little home lab type thing. Is that right? And go on.
Or no, what were you about to say?
No, I was just going to say, so did you find that really cemented the knowledge and made it real rather than just some virtualized environment like Packet Tracer?
It makes it much more cemented into your head and much more real. the only thing that I do like about the virtual stuff is that it gives you a topology diagram already there. So you don't have, when you usually doing things on your home lab, you want to kind of in a way plan what IP addressing you use in the link, or how you're gonna have set up everything. But usually that's why in a way typically I like the virtual stuff better, because you just have everything kind of like drawn out for you, so you just easily implement everything. But I also do like physical equipment, because you're not just limited to the limited commands sometimes that virtual stuff has.
That's a very good point. I think for someone starting with Cisco, it's good to feel and touch the stuff, like do physical. But I think I agree with you. Very quickly, you tire of that, and then a virtual environment just allows you to spin up things and build very large topologies very quickly.
Yeah, and it's also good, especially if you do a physical lab. What I did when I was doing my CCENT is I bought crimping tools and spools of cable, and I learned how to make Ethernet cables, which is also pretty
Well,
cool.
well done, well done. I mean, that's brilliant, because a lot of guys, I think, who go on courses that I've seen in the past or who study virtually, they don't actually know physically how the things work. And I mean, it's brilliant that you did that. So you made your own cables, you cabled up your own lab, so you know physically how it works, and then you can jump into the virtual stuff because you have that foundation.
Correct.
That's brilliant. So Michael, you mentioned that one of the limitations you had in GNS3 was the switching. Which images were you using in GNS3?
So at this time, I'm really just using the kind of like the images that come off your physical equipment, like the older iOS 12 images.
Yeah, yeah.
But for routing capabilities, except for the older ones, except for EIGRP for IPv6, it works pretty well.
And that's why your physical equipment helped you. So I'm assuming that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the equipment that helped you the most was the switching, because that's often a problem with people experience with, say, GNS3 or packet tracer is the switching side.
And
did it help you learn spanning tree better? Did it make more sense when you did it on the physical side?
it in a way did, because in a way, I know with packet tracer it'll kind of show you, I believe, the amber light. It's to signify that a port's blocked or something. So it's also cool in a way that you just set up your switches and you have them all set up as trunks, and all the greens are all the lights are green. So you, in a way, it makes you go investigate which one's a root bridge, what are the root ports, designated ports, what, in a way, what speed, how you can modify what speed they're running at, and modify how they elect everything. So it's really, in a way, physical equipment does get the job done better, especially for switching.
Yeah. So just for everyone's benefit, GNS3 does support advanced switching, but you need viral images, so Cisco viral images to be able to do the advanced switching stuff. And as Michael mentioned, Michael, you were using images off routers, which are very limited. You get basic Ether switch modules, but if you want full-blown switching, you need to get a viral image on GNS3. But that does cost. So I mean, there's a cost associated with that. So, Michael, what do you plan to do next? I mean, I'm assuming you're going to go and take some, say, the Network Plus, A Plus exams. Is that right? Or are you planning to go and do CCNP and perhaps CCIE one day?
So, really, I do plan to finish up the A Plus, Network Plus, Security Plus, and then just go straight for the CCNP. And I also do plan on going for the CCIE, but I also want routing and switching. But I also want to learn other technologies, so maybe get some multiple CCNPs, and then just after, hopefully, I get some industry experience, I'll go for the CCIE.
That's great. So you're 14 at the moment. Any sort of timeline that you're thinking about to get CCIE or CCNP? Have you given that any thought?
So what I do hope on doing right now is just getting my CCNP before I turn 16.
Wow.
So,
yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I think you're an inspiration for many, because If you can get your CCMP by the time that you're 16 and perhaps your CCIE by the time that you're 18 or 20 before you turn 20, that would be amazing. That'll set you up in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, I'm a bit older, so it'd be really cool to get your take on this. What do you recommend other young people do? Like if they're interested in technology, they're interested perhaps in networking but aren't quite sure, would you recommend it? What tips do you have for other young people balancing school or just general tips for young people?
So really just get into it. I mean, just find something that you love and just get a love for it, and then just love what you do. So maybe you might be interested in more specifically Linux and Windows Server, and finding out how servers more specifically work, and how to enable and disable their different services that come along with server operating systems. So really just find something, especially since younger people typically have more time. Just really discover what you love to do.
That's great advice. Great advice. I think another big lesson is you haven't been squandering your time. You haven't been wasting your time. You've been investing even at this age, and that's going to set you up in a big way for the future. This one of the questions I was asked to ask you, sort of, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? And I think you've already answered it. What do you want to do when you grow up?
So like I said before, hopefully a network architect for a big company like Cisco, and really just have a lot of certifications and maybe industry experience and a lot of knowledge that could help me perform the job duties.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So, I think you've mentioned this already. So at the moment, your focus is more on networking. That's your love at the moment. But you're also going to be interested in doing perhaps some programming stuff along with networking.
Programming, and also learning some system administration stuff.
So, Michael, we've come sort of to the end of the interview. Have you got any closing thoughts for young people or just in general?
I would like to shout out to like all the people who have helped me. Of course, mentioned many times my family, my mom, my dad, and my grandparents, everyone, my sister, and really all these great content creators like you for creating great resources, and also inspiring people like me to work harder and accomplish our goals. Find what you love doing, love what you do, and do what you love.
So, Michael, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me, and thanks for being an inspiration for myself and many others. I've got kids who are a little bit younger than you, and I have already told them about you and told them what you've done, and told them, look, they mustn't stop dreaming. They can do anything because someone like you reached a really massive goal at 14. They can do the same. So thanks for being an inspiration to my kids and hopefully to many others around the world.
Thanks. It's always a pleasure to talk with like-minded people. So appreciate it.